Welcome to Navigating the Customer Experience. Want to improve your organization's customer service? Looking for insider tips to knock your customer socks off? Then you're in the right place. Here's your host, Yannick Grant.
Welcome to Navigating the Customer Experience. On today's episode, our guest is Michelle Pascoe, CSP. Michelle is an international speaker, accredited trainer, researcher, author, podcaster, and experienced businesswoman. She has an undeniable passion for customer service, mystery shopping, and team motivation, and is a specialist in every aspect of service operations and processes and their impact on the customer experience. In 1994, she founded one of Australia's most respected training companies, Optimum Operating Procedures and Services, Pty Limited. Oops! OOPS, serving the hospitality industry for almost 30 years. Oops, OOPS is still a thriving provider of mystery shopping, service benchmarking, surveys and focus groups, competitor audits, team training, and leadership development, including the highly successful Middle Management Movement program. Michelle's key focus and passion pertain to service delivery and the expectations of the 21st century customer. Through mapping their journey, and she firmly believes that a feeling of belonging created throughout the experience is the key point of difference in creating the essential human connection. So without further delay, sit back, plug your earphones in, and let's jump right into this conversation with Michelle. Welcome, Michelle.
Thank you, Yannick, for having me. I'm looking forward to our conversation.
All right. Now, before we start, getting into the core of the conversation, we always like to give our guests an opportunity to share in their own words a little bit about their own journey. So could you share with our listeners a little bit about how you got to where you are today?
Well, happy to. I started my business back in 1994. It only seems like yesterday, even though it's nearly 30 years, 3 decades. And how I got into the industry was I'd been an employee for a number of years in the hospitality and marketing fields, and I had a horrific interview. And I thought back to myself then, this is not a way to run a business. So after a very short period of time, I did some various courses, business courses, and I started my own business. Now, the development over the years from back then, which was offering more typing services, because that was one thing I was good at, I slowly moved into training, and then within a few short years got into the hospitality industry and absolutely love it, because to me the connection with the customer, both the internal and the external customer, just gives me so much joy and passion. And over that time, some of those young boys and girls that I trained nearly 30 years ago are now CEOs of their own businesses, and I have had the honour and privilege of seeing their own personal journey, but they have also taken me on their journey through the various companies that they have been with. So yes, it's been a wonderful 3 decades, and I look forward to more years ahead of me.
All right. So you are in the service industry for many, many years now. And I know service is pretty much standard across most countries across the world, right? I've interviewed persons from Australia before on this podcast, but I always like to get a perspective from people that are from different parts of the world. So could you maybe just put in context for us, just how it is that services in your country currently, or in your part of the world, and what are some of the main service issues, maybe across different industries, if there is like maybe a 2 or 3 overarching themes that you've identified since you work with different organizations that you found companies tend to struggle with in terms of delivering that excellent service?
Yes, look, you are correct in the sense that service is an expectation no matter what country we are in the world. However, here in Australia, and I say it's very similar, I'm not long back from the US myself, is that we are still struggling to have people apply for positions. Now, Australia is a very large country. We have a lot of regional areas that our city people and our overseas tourists love to come to travel and enjoy our outback areas. However, their expectation is that the restaurants will be open, the hotels will be open, the service will be impeccable, and it should be, and the owners of those businesses really try, but it is very, very, very hard to get staff at the moment you need. We are finding, when we closed our borders, a lot of our overseas backpackers who work predominantly in the hospitality industry have not returned. It's very slow. And we're also finding, even in our city venues, and this is across all industries, not just hospitality, that it's a longer process now for people to actually come in to businesses and wish to apply. Before 2020, we were finding that we have a number of applicants we could choose from, but now it is trying to, even get people to apply and then retain them. And I think the world has changed in that, not that everybody just wants to work at home, because that's just not serviceable, particularly in hospitality, but it's understanding that we are now working with 4 key generations. And so what are we offering them in the workplace that is going to provide not just that simple analogy of life-work balance, but actually what are we actually asking them questions, finding out what they're needing. And I think we're finding the businesses that are doing that unique and changing their rostering system to perhaps what it was always been for many, many years is attracting the right applicants slowly, but it is getting better. So I think that's probably one of the key areas. When it comes to service, it's understanding what our customers' needs are, whether, there's a lot of intolerance, there's a lot of entitlement from customers, and I'll put my hand up and openly say that we see that so often, the rudeness of customers and this idea that they think that that provider of that service is a servant and not just providing a service. And that's what they're doing. People are providing a service, they are serving them, but they are not a servant. So we do find that a lot of people that are new in the industry when it comes to customer service, whether it's retail, hospitality, real estate, that they leave pretty quickly because they get hurt. The resilience is low. It's hard. Some customers are quite rude. So how do we handle that? That's certainly an area that I'm finding I work on a lot with the training now, is how do we handle those customers? What can we do proactively before they become that intolerable customer, so to speak? And the other is consistency, and we'll talk about that a little bit later on, is that companies do clearly need to define what their vision is, what their values are, and what their expectations, because we find that when they're not, businesses, they'll be highly recommended one week, and then social media will destroy them the following week. And it may well be due to something that could have been easily fixed if they had a clear vision and expectations were set beforehand. So they're probably the 3 areas that we're finding that's impacting the businesses across here in Australia.
All right, thank you for sharing. I found it interesting when you mentioned that the customer becomes rude, and as a result of that, you find that a lot of people are leaving from the customer experience professions because their tolerance becomes very low because of how they're treated. I don't think I've ever heard anyone put it in that perspective before, but one of the things I wanted to find out from you as it relates to that specific point, do you believe that the customer becoming rude is a behavioral issue that is maybe cultural in terms of just their mannerism, or do you think it is a catalyst as a result of how they're being treated, their needs not being met, communication not being consistent and clear, and that propels them into that state of being very intolerable and aggravated and rude to the customer service providers? What has in your experience been there?
That's a really good question. I think people's expectations have changed. We now have a world that everything is instant. And we see so often that they now believe it's all about me. we see that on the roads, when people are driving the road, they won't let you in, Unique, or, they believe that they should be at the front of the queue because they've got a busy day. And, it's all this self-entitlement. Now, this certainly is not all our customers. Unfortunately, they are the minority, but they make the most noise and they impact the most on our beautiful people that are providing the service. So, yeah, it is this feeling of self-entitlement. I know we've found, with those couple of years of shutdown in particular, that the people that were coming out of that, they are still learning that they have to wait for service, that they have to understand things a little bit slower. And I think that's what's really key, is when that's shared with them, it's communicated. It's not making excuses from the company, but the company sharing with them. I know I've seen them in the US, small signs that, we're short on staff, sorry for the delays, we are wanting to provide you the best customer service. Now, I know not everybody reads signs, but just that little bit of a pre-warning may assist with some customers. But those ones that are totally intolerable, we've got to handle them, because that's just part of what service is. But it doesn't mean we have to accept rude behaviour. And I think that's where it has to be very clearly communicated to the frontline team that management or the owner of the business won't accept that and will, intervene when a customer has overstepped the comments perhaps, or their interactions with that service provider, or is impacting with other customers, Unique. But I said, it's not all of them. There's only a few, but we do find, and what we're finding here more and more, is that these people just believe they're entitled. They're entitled to have their service right now and don't worry about anybody else, which is disappointing.
All right. Thank you so much for sharing. Now, a big part of what you do, based on what we read in your bio, was also mystery shopping. And I'm sure you do mystery shopping across many different industries. Have you found that the mystery shopping helps to identify to organizations, what their key pain points are? And if as listeners of this podcast, if there was like a business owner, or maybe a senior person in a customer success or a customer experience department that would be listening to this episode, and they themselves are considering doing such an activity for 2024, what would be your advice? What are some of the benefits that you think could be derived? Because the intervention itself of mystery shopping can be a very expensive venture. Why would you recommend to a CEO or someone who is in customer success or customer experience to recommend to their organization to invest in something like this? Because I find a lot of organizations they may want to do it, they hear about it, but then they're not able to connect the dots in terms of the financial gain that they're going to get from a report like that, or data submitted from that, and how does that translate into transforming the experience that it will, increase the dollar value in their organization, that when they look at their bottom line at the end of the year, there's more money and not less money.
Another great question. And I love mystery shopping. When I first created our own proprietary software, which is over 2 decades now, I never wanted it to find or catch people out in it. A lot of frontline team members, as well as owners of businesses, think mystery shopping is all about finding the faults in your business. I've always changed the narrative around that we're looking for the shining lights in your business, as well as where there are opportunities. So if I can just give you a quick analogy of the reports that we do is both objective and subjective. Now, you have to have those both areas in mystery shopping. Mm-hmm. There's no point in just having a score, because a number means absolutely nothing unless it has got qualitative research behind it. Now, quantitative research, which gives you those stats, it's important because you've got that number then to go, all right, we've got 85 this month. And what can we put in place now to rise that number? But you want to understand how did you get that number of 85? So for your listeners, I would, say to them, first off, break up the report, what they're going to look up into 4 key areas: the service, image, marketing, and compliance, or regulations that they may have in their particular industry, or even their own personal regulations or compliance in their own business. And then when looking at those questions, as I said, it's both looking at them that purely objective questioning where, are they wearing their name badge? Yes or no. But then it could be, you'd have a number of questions about that actual service. Did they take your order? Did they use your name? Did they, offer you an option? They're all those objective questions, which are fantastic for those scores, that you can measure that data every month or how often you do it. But then it's about that qualitative information, because at times, we could have an experience where the register doesn't work, or there could be, an issue with the actual process of delivering a particular product, but it is how it's handled by that frontline person or that owner of that business unit that brings in that subjective experience. And that's what's absolutely key. So having those questions in there and that ability to make a comment on those questions, and it could be, the register was not able to be used, it was broken down. So instead of the staff member just shrugging their shoulders and saying, can't serve you, it doesn't work, what did they do? Did they offer for you to take a little bit longer to walk around the store? Did they ask you to come in and sit down? We can serve you the coffee, and then payment can be a little bit later. What was those ways that you and your team connected with that person who's come into your business to ensure that they have this amazing experience, even when things aren't working 100%? So yes, mystery shopping can be expensive. It doesn't always have to be, but a couple of tips is you're investing in your team. This is not about catching people out. It is about those shining lights that show to others how wonderful, what happens when this service is provided, the impact that it has. It also gives you the opportunity to get some very important and information back from your customers. It also shows you where there are friction points, those pain points where the length of time is too long. I do a lot of research in multi-generations, as you may well be aware, in, particularly Gen Z. They're looking for that frictionless point. They don't want to be held up in queues. They want to be able to just order and the food's delivered, for example. So mystery shopping identifies where those friction points are. It also identifies those areas that are working really well, or perhaps there's an area that it's working, but what can we do to step it up? So I always see mystery shopping as an investment, and I've had the same clients for over 2 decades, and the data that I have on them, particularly one client, they started off with one business. They've now gone into 7 different businesses. They've reached out into other areas of business and different forms of industry, and all because they've always measured what they've done the month before with their mystery shopping. So I can understand that some businesses may feel it's an expense, but it is truly an investment in their business and as well as in their team.
All right, perfect. Thank you so much for sharing. Now, Michelle, can you also share with our listeners what's the one online resource, tool, website, or app that you absolutely can't live without in your business?
Oh my goodness. It's funny, technology, you always think it's great when it's working, but when it doesn't, it can be frustrating.
For sure.
But I think one of the beautiful tools that has really come out is Canva, Canva, and it's an Australian girl who started it, and it is now worldwide, where you can create anything. It is absolutely beautiful. You can create posters, you can just create words, and everything just looks wonderful. So yeah, I suggest to your listeners to have a look at that. Canva is really good. The online platform I use for all my online training is Kajabi, and I've found that out through coming to the US. I come quite often throughout the years, and I love that for an online platform. And I suppose as an app, and what we're all getting into now, many of us, is this chat GPT, how to use it wisely. But, I found it's good. You can put the information in there, ask it to, give you some ideas. You don't take them all, but it's certainly a way of, well, how do we make this perhaps what I say, that little bit more compelling in the written word? But yes, they'd be my three: Canva, Kajabi, and ChatGPT.
All right, perfect. Thank you so much for sharing. Can you also share with our listeners maybe one or two books that you've read? It could be a book that you read a very long time ago, but it has had a great impact on you, or even one that you've read recently.
Look, I'm an avid reader. I love reading, and self-development in business, I think, is absolutely key. But most recently, and when I say most recently, I think it was the start of last year, I was given the book The Gap and the Gain by Dan Sullivan and Dr. Benjamin Hardy. Phenomenal book. Have you read that book, Unique?
I have not.
Oh, I've just got it here in front of me. It's got The High Achiever's Guide to Happiness, Confidence, and Success. And when you go through the book, the both of them speak about, and many of us know that Dan Sullivan was the founder of Strategic Coach. Is too often in life we look at that gap. Instead of looking at what we've gained. I always say to my clients, they're wanting to build their membership, and they start off at zero, and they say, oh, we want to achieve 100 new members by the end of the week. And when they get to 50, when I see them, they go, oh, we only got 50. And all they're worried about is the 50 that they didn't get. But I said, and this is what comes from this book, is, but look at the gain. You started off with zero, and now you've got 50. That's fantastic.
True.
And honestly, it is a book that changed my whole course in my business. And I'm saying that with hand on heart, Unique. It is a book that not only has changed my business, but also my life and my thoughts. Too often we spend in that gap and not enough time in the gain, and how to do that. And they've written some further books, the both of them together. The other is Who Not How, which is fantastic. And of course, there's another book that's just come out about 10xing. How do we 10x instead of 2x? So, but my absolute favorite is The Gap and the Gain. So whether it's book form, which I love, or on Audible, it's even just as interesting and informative.
Perfect. Okay, so we'll have the link to that book in the show notes of this episode. Now, Michelle, can you also share with our listeners what's the one thing that's going on in your life right now that you're really excited about? Either something you're working on to develop yourself or your people.
When I was thinking about this question, and as I said a moment ago, I truly believe in self-development in business. I have ensured that I have spent a lot of time in the US doing, multiple courses, also here in Australia and Europe and Asia, bringing that information back to my team and to my clients. So at the moment, what we're very excited about is planning well in advance for 2024 in how we can deliver our programs even further outreach to our regional areas here in Australia and also globally. So that's exciting for us, because when we develop the business, it develops and rises our whole team. I've got my beautiful EA Sarah, but I also have another is who do a lot of the researching. So by developing new niches, new areas globally, it will certainly provide them more work. Yeah, so looking forward to it.
All right. Now, Michelle, our listeners would have tapped into this episode and they're quite intrigued with your journey and also your, all the things that you're doing, and they'd like to connect with you online. Where can they find you online?
Look, my key area for connection is on LinkedIn, Unique. So they can find me there under my name, Michelle Pascoe. I'm also on Facebook and Instagram as Michelle Pascoe, but LinkedIn is my main area. And of course, my website is www.michellepascoe.com.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Now, before we wrap our episodes up, we always like to ask our guests, do you have a quote or a saying that during times of adversity or challenge, you'll tend to revert to this quote? If for any reason you got derailed or you went off track, the quote kind of helps to get you back on track. Do you have one of those?
I do, and it was one that I actually created myself many years ago after doing a course about choice theory and meeting different people from very diverse backgrounds over the years, is that we choose the life that we truly deserve, not the life that others choose for us. And I live by that, and I share that with every client that I come in contact with, because not everybody sees the potential that they have inside them. And there are so many people that impact others on their thoughts and their decisions in their life. That yes, choose the life that you truly deserve, not the one that others choose for you.
All right, brilliant. All right, Michelle, well, thank you so much for coming on our podcast today and taking time out of your schedule to kind of just share, about customer experience and what are some of the key things that organizations can gain from really focusing on this aspect of their business. Also tapping into, the key things that market research, specifically mystery shopping, you can do for a business regardless of the industry. And of course, to turn the perspective of how organizations may look at mystery shopping more from, who are the shining persons that will be identified from the research and any opportunities for improvement. I thought that was really cool. So thank you so much again, and we wish you all the very best. And thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much for the opportunity, Unique. I've certainly enjoyed having this conversation with yourself today, and I wish all your listeners all the very best of success in their businesses. It's a wonderful journey to be on.
Amen. Just want to remind our listeners that you can follow us on X at NavigatingCX, and feel free to join our private Facebook group on Facebook called Navigating the Customer Experience Community. Until next time, I'm your host, Unique Grant. We also have a new book available on Amazon, The ABCs of a Fantastic Customer Experience. It's available in ebook and paperback. So if you want to increase revenue in your organization, build a stronger service culture, and create employees or develop employees who are really mastering service delivery in your business, you need to grab a copy of this book. Until next time, I'm your host, Unique Grant.
Thanks for listening. For more awesome resources to take your customer service game to another level, head over to navigatingthecustomerexperience.com. See you next time.